Hey guys, be sure to like and subscribe. Today we're going to talk a little bit about prostitution in the Philippines, and we're going to talk about some of the ramifications of the past with having bases here and some of the issues that it has caused. And it's kind of a tough subject, guys, because it's a subject that nobody really wants to tackle over here. Prostitution and, some of the issues with the military over here was that a lot of the guys had girlfriends over here and they dumped their children and went back to the United States. And in some cases, some of these people managed to reach out to these, veterans who later on became veterans, reach out to them and let them know that they have kids here. Some of them knew, but wanted to kind of block that out of their mind for whatever reason. And some of them took responsibility for it, and some didn't, okay? Some waited till after the kid was 18 to get in touch with these kids. And it's kind of sad in the respect that these guys, they just let the kid get raised by their mother in abject poverty and then wait to get in touch with the kid, and went on with their lives and lived a good life, And I mean, I know of one father, because I reconnected the daughter with the father, and it was actually a good story. It turned into a good story because he became close with the daughter, and I'm not going to mention any names or anything for privacy, right? Because they have the right to their privacy. But, he took responsibility, and I'm not going to get too much into the story, but I was kind of happy to actually be able to do that, to reunite them. And it was kind of a cool, fun thing to do because I wasn't sure how the story was going to turn out. I didn't know if the guy was going to turn her away, the daughter, or whether he was going to accept her. And in the end, he accepted her and actually became friends with the mom again, okay? And I'm not going to get too deep into the story, but it had a good ending, okay, for the most part. Not totally, but for the most part, okay? The girl was actually a fiance of the guy, and the guy was here during '92 when the base was leaving, and he jumped on the ship and left, and then just never contacted her again, and that's what happened. It was kind of like a really sad mess, and there's more to the story than that, but I'm not going to get into it because, like I said, people have rights to privacy, and if I say too much about the story, somebody might figure it out. So I'll just leave it at that. But anyway, now we're going to get into the subject of prostitution, and that has nothing to do with prostitution, by the way. Okay, so prostitution in the Philippines still goes on to this day. It's one of the oldest professions in the world, probably. It's in the book of Genesis, it talks about it, and it exists today and probably always will, unfortunately. The sad thing is that a lot of these prostitutes become pregnant. And some of these Westerners come over here and they take some of these girls in as their girlfriends, and and they think that they can change them, and they really can't, because it's just the way some of these girls are, and they're swindlers and whatever. And some of these girls are so lowly, and I'm going to say that word, lowly, because it's not just here in the Philippines, it's all over the world, that when the kid reaches a certain age, when they get pregnant, they basically throw the kid out into the street, stick it with some family that's already poverty stricken because the people have a heart for kids. I've seen a lady in Manila take a kid off the street, a very young kid. The kid could barely talk. and took that kid under her wing, and she was already in abject poverty, with a child of her own with her husband, and she just had like a portable sari store on wheels, and she took that other kid in. And a lot of these children on the streets are products of prostitutes, and not all of them are products of prostitutes that were with Western men. Some were with Filipino guys or Chinese guys or whatever. But the fact is, a lot of them are from Western men. I mean, up in Angeles and in Subic, when the United States pulled out, there was tons of children that were left behind that were half and half. And those children were looked down upon by many Filipinos because they were basically children of prostitutes in some cases. And even if they weren't, if they were from a love affair or whatever, they got labeled as such. And the Americans that were here, or any other people from other Western countries that worked with the US, that fathered these children, unfortunately, left these kids behind, not just in abject poverty, but also to be put down most of their lives. It made it harder for them to get jobs. A lot of these kids are without documentation. The sad part is they have to live with that for the rest of their lives. And some of them end up, guess where? Back in prostitution. The second they turn 14, 13, they turn to prostitution. And that's what some of these people left for their kids. Prostitution. It's not much to look forward to, in life. In some ways, it's probably good that the US base is gone. In other ways, it's not. Because not only did you destroy the protections that the Filipinos had here, but you also destroyed a child's life for the guys that up and left these kids behind. And a lot of the reasons why the Filipinos wanted Americans out of here was because of some of the things that they were doing. It wasn't all about being colonized by the US and stuff like that. There was also calls from some people in the human rights that Americans basically keep the prostitution going in a lot of these areas. And when you think about it, we do. And it's not just the US, it's Western countries, the UK, a lot of ships that used to pull in there. I'm not sure if the UK or the Australia or what other countries pulled in there, but I'm sure there was other ones that would ask to go in there and have liberty there or whatever. And lately, we've even had Russian ships pull in here. I believe we've had 2. I'm not sure if they were allowed shore leave or how that worked out. But I mean, I understand poverty breeds prostitution, and it's sad that people resort to that, And I know in Pattaya, in Thailand, it's the same thing, and it's even bigger. And anytime you see a guy at an ATM there with a girl or 2 girls or whatever, you know what he's up to. He's up to no good, unfortunately. And a lot of guys when they were younger, they went through this. They know what I'm talking about, and I'm not going to cast stones at anybody, I mean, I was young once. I know what happened during those times, in the Navy. I'm not saying everybody's perfect, and I'm not perfect either, but you grow up. I see these guys over here now, 50, 60, 70 years old, and they're basically doing the same thing as when they were 17 years old because they never moved on and never grew up, and you can come over here and live a good life with a good woman, or you can live like that and basically be, I don't know, I call it kind of a trashy life myself. You know, I think you're setting other people up for failure. And that would be your kids if you ever get a girl pregnant over here. You know, God forbid. You know, it's a mess. And like I said, I know Filipinos around here, they've gotten some of these prostitutes, you know, pregnant, and the girls just dump the kids off. And I know that firsthand without getting into details about it, you know, and it's a rotten life for a kid to have to go through that, you know. And most of those kids know that what their parents were before. And who wants to have their kid live like that? Seriously. You know, I mean, we have to think with this head instead of the little head, you know? And we have to think long term sometimes when we do these things, because things happen. And I remember one time walking through the Christmas mall here. And this will show you how people think of Westerners. I'm going to give you a prime example that affected me, okay, because of other people that came before me. I was walking through the Christmas mall, like a outside mall, market, I guess you could call it. Walking through the Christmas market. I got my earbuds in, listening to some music. I'm just looking at stuff. And I'm with my girlfriend and her daughter and our little boy, and we're looking around. And I got my earbuds in. I can't really hear that much. I see this lady walking beside me, and she had the face shield, wearing all the Muslim stuff. And it really didn't matter whether she was Muslim or what she was. It was what she was saying. And she was saying something in Filipino. I saw her there, but I didn't really pay much attention to her because she was walking right next to me, and she was yelling something out, and I just kind of blew it off because I didn't know she was speaking Filipino, Tagalog. Anyway, my girlfriend picked up what she was saying, and she was saying some trash about me, saying, you know, something about Westerners, and these guys come over here and all they're looking for is the JJ. That's the word I'll use to be kind. You know, and you guys know what I'm talking about. And that's all he wants. And, you know, he just wants to get some girl pregnant or something like that. And he's not here to be a good man. He doesn't want to buy anything. He's just looking for prostitutes. You know, saying stuff like that. Really nasty stuff, okay? Well, my girlfriend started yelling at her to confront her and started telling me what she was saying. So I started following her because I wanted to talk to her, but she took off into the crowd really quick. I didn't want to do anything to her. I just wanted to have a talk with her and say, well, you know, why are you saying that about me? I'm here minding my business, and you're saying stuff about me just because I'm white and I'm a Westerner. You know, and it kind of bothered me. And, you know, I know Westerners leave a mark here. Even Magellan left his mark, you know. He definitely left his mark here. You know, in some ways he left a good mark, in some ways he left a bad mark. And the Spanish that were here before left their mark. And it wasn't a good mark, it was kind of a bad mark. Just like the United States when we were here. We had bases here. You know, we think of the women here as like cast lower for some reason. A lot of Westerners think that way. And I consider everybody equal. Everybody, you know. And I think a lot of guys come over here for a lot of different reasons. Some of them, they like the sweetness of the Filipina and the Filipino guys. You know, they're just nice people. But Filipinas are like the best women in the world to marry because some of them can be very sweet. Some of them are very protective of their man. If you treat them right, they'll treat you right. You know, and that's okay. But there's a dark side over here. A lot of guys come over here, they're lifelong bachelors, and they take advantage of Filipinas over here. because they're in poverty. You buy, they think of it like, oh, if I buy this girl a phone or if I give her a couple bucks, I can get everything I want. Is that the real way that we want to think about women? Is that the way we want to look at the world? I think when we do that, we cause our own problems. We cause people in these countries that we go to look at us like trash. And I'm not saying Filipino men wouldn't do the same thing if they were allowed to do so and the shoe was on the other foot. They probably would in some cases, but a lot of them don't. I would say, I see a lot of the men over here. A lot of them like to drink. A lot of them like the prostitutes. And it's kind of sad. I'm not saying everyone, but I know if you go to Angeles, I'll bet you see more Westerners walking the streets up there than you do Filipinos. And the same goes for Pattaya. You're going to see Westerners up there. You're also going to see Chinese and some Indian people up there and people from many other different countries like Portugal and even Sweden, Australia, UK. But when guys do that, you leave a mark. It's not a good mark. It's kind of an atrocious mark, actually. And you're turning these women into something that nobody would want their daughter to be. So why would you want to turn this girl into something like that? She might not be your daughter, but what if she was? We kind of have to rethink the way we think. I think Westerners think of like, if I want to do it, I'm going to do it. And I don't care what anybody thinks. It's a free country. Is that what free countries are about? Really? Last I heard, that's not what it's about. And I know we have prostitution in the US. It runs rampant, in places like Vegas and in places that are poverty-stricken. There's a lot of prostitution in the ghettos, and it's all over the world. But the United States seems to have maybe a bigger issue with that, I think, than some other countries. Maybe not. Maybe it's just something that I see myself, But when that lady did that to me, I was like, wow, that's a mark. It's a mark left behind. It's like a curse that those people before me left here for future generations of Westerners and Americans that come over here. Because that's on the mind of some Filipinos and Filipinas over here that are right. There are people over here that don't want to see that in their country. And do you blame them? I don't. And I'm not speaking to you from a religious level. I'm speaking to you from a humanitarian level. Think of it the way I said before. What if that girl was your daughter? Right? What if that girl got pregnant from some customer? First of all, would you want the kid? Probably not. You think a Filipino family is going to take their daughter in with a kid fathered by some American that paid her $5 or $10 to sleep with her? Probably not. It's a touchy subject. But anyway, guys, I just want to touch on that a little bit. Something that, I don't know, it just kind of bothered me today. Because I read a couple articles and seen a couple of videos about stuff like that. And it just touches me right here. And maybe it will touch some of you guys too that do think like that, And I'm not saying, I know most of my people out there, a lot of them have girlfriends or they're looking for a girlfriend. And you guys are okay in my book. There's no problem there, But there are a couple of you guys out there that have said, I want to stay a lifelong bachelor or whatever. Maybe have a girl live in for 2 weeks or 3 weeks and then boot her out and get another one. It's like, I'm thinking to myself, how would you like if somebody did that to you? And I know people do it, but somewhere along the line, these guys are going to get a girl pregnant. And they'll probably just up and move to another city or whatever. And that's the sad story about it. That's the sad part. And there'll be another kid out there in the street, or another kid for somebody else to look after, or another kid sitting in an orphanage who's being ridiculed because he's half white, half Filipino. You know, and it's not fair to that kid. But anyway, guys, God bless. Take care, and be sure to like and subscribe, guys.